Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your overly caffeinated and sleep deprived host, Tony Cañas. And we are recording on Monday, May 12th. Today I have with me Luis Diaz, and that is Diaz with a Z, the Spanish spelling of Diaz, not Diaz with an S, the Portuguese spelling. Luis, thank you for coming on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited to be here, Tony. I mean, yeah,
Awesome.
it's great. I've been listening to your podcasts and been doing some, full digital stalking on you on LinkedIn, and we've
Fantastic.
met a few times. We met definitely a few times at ITC in Vegas. So really happy to be here.
Did you happen to be at PLRB a few weeks ago?
No, I
Okay.
wanted to. The thing that overlapped with the final week of the Global Insurance Accelerator Group as we were
Oh, yes.
preparing for the Global Insurance Symposium, which
All
which
right.
which we presented at. So
All right.
finished
When
that program, and they so that's why.
when we get to the end of the recording, I might not remember, but when we're done recording, be like, "Hey, GIA," because I have some questions about GIA. All right.
Yeah, I
I'm
got
I'm a
the
big
we
fan of GIA.
Yeah, global. Yeah, the because yeah, really proud to be part of the Global Insurance Accelerators 2025 cohort. With
Fantastic. A fantastic program. All
yeah,
right. So normally we break the ice over the weather. You are in the San Francisco Bay Area.
yep.
So the Bay pretty much all year except for October. So I'm gonna take a wild guess that the weather is a little bit chilly, but very, very nice in
It
May.
is, but the one thing I would add is, this is lets you know how spoiled we are. I walk out to get my Wall Street Journal, and it's actually wet because there was unexpected rain. So it's like it's we're not used to rain out here, and but I managed to get through that that
You
horrible
poor
weather
thing.
event.
Every listener in LA who had wildfire damage last fall feels bad for you, and every listener in the Midwest and New
I
York
know.
who
I don't
deals
know how
with
I'm going to get
constant bad
through.
weather wishes you luck in your upcoming therapy for your wet newspaper. Yeah, San Francisco has the best weather in the country, in my opinion. My girlfriend, we lived in Berkeley for a year. My girlfriend thought it was a little cold. I loved it. The cost of living is stupid,
it
but,
it's
but
it's it's the best place to live as long as we're not on fire, right? So the
yes. Well, and,
and
and and and the earthquake at some point, right? The big one is coming.
yeah, I've been waiting for that event.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the it's I actually when I arrived, I've been in the Bay Area for over 30 years, moved
Holy
out
crap.
here when I was 15, and
Okay.
I I just missed the huge earthquake of 1991, 1990. I moved out the year after. So people were talking about that. So I've actually, so crazy that I've been here for like 34 years and haven't been around for one major event, but
Well,
we're constantly waiting.
Napa.
Huh?
Napa, I don't know, 10 or 11 years ago.
Yeah, no, true. It goes. It's been it's close. You feel it out. You hear about an earthquake, I have family in Argentina that goes ahead and hears like an earthquake in Napa, and I'm like, yes, no, bad, but we're fine. But it's as you said, it's a matter of time, and luckily I think we're in a region that's pretty well insured, so the we'll see. But that's always
Fantastic.
the background. Yep.
All right. All right. So we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
What is Claims Mentor or Claim Mentor?
Yes. So we are a reimagined solution for claim statements. What the challenge is that so first of all, like the insurance adjusters themselves are overworked, and overall we believe that they work in a noble profession, and unfortunately they are buried under administrative work. So we do everything that we can to free them up, and our specific focus happens to be on claim statements, everything from scheduling on-camera meetings and summarizing the calls.
So by
That's
claim
it.
statements, you mean recorded statements.
Yes,
Okay,
record
perfect, perfect.
statements for that side is the
So
focus. Yep.
Like soup to nuts, from scheduling them to having them to summarizing them. So let me pause you real quick. So I lived 2 years in the claims world. One
Yeah.
of those years was at Farm Bureau of Iowa, and that was FNOL Express Claim. So I would take the claim, put it in the system. If it was a simple claim, basically clear liability, not a total loss, no injury,
Yeah.
clear hits, parking lot accidents, that kind of thing, we would keep it and work it ourselves. There was no recorded statement needed,
That's
right?
right.
Like we would quickly take the person's story, and the deer never wanted to come on the phone. And my favorite joke at the time was uh how did I phrase it? I basically asked if the deer would be submitting a claim, and 99% of people laughed, and then there was the one guy who was like somewhere between confused and offended by my question of whether the deer was going to be putting in a claim. Um, but I had a lot of fun asking that question. But then I go to Nationwide, and now I am in the MedPay PIP units. So
Okay.
no longer call center, still in office, and basically first party MedPay PIP. And my best friend was working third party BI, so we both dealt with recorded statements. And at that time, the way that it worked at Nationwide was basically like you did the interview, you made a liability decision, and you put it in the file. Okay, so I'm assuming that that's what it looks like at most carriers before ClaimMentor.
Yeah, that's a really good thing. So the first thing is like what you're getting into is like where the target market is. If you're in a first party kind of take and retain F&O world and there's no liability coverage, it's like first party only, the best thing to do is to just go ahead and make the payment or get people back on their feet, and there's no need for a recorded statement. For our target is something essentially has gone wrong. There's probably a liability, or as you said, a complicated first party loss. So this is the world for how what the pain is. Like, first of all, if you're an adjuster that's focused on these types of claims, you spend about 2 to 2.5 hours a day just playing phone tag in terms of just scheduling the calls, right? And just you're like, when can we meet? And there's a challenge because claims adjusters work the same hours predominantly as the actual claimants, right? So it's like, yeah, we would love to meet with you 2 o'clock on a Wednesday, and you're like, that's great, but I have my own, I have a meeting, right? So to address that, we send a scheduled link with a calendar availability of the insurance adjuster, and then the claimant picks a time, and then that's the time that they can pick. And if they also later on they realize, oh my God, I have to reschedule my meeting, right? They have that capacity as well, because here's a known stat: even when you have a scheduled meeting, there's 20% of that time there's a no-show.
Oh,
On
my own is higher.
really?
I live on Calendly. So what you're basically describing is a specialty Calendly, right?
Right,
So I live on Calendly, and my Calendly is funnily complex. So
right,
my Calendly has half an hour meetings just
right,
for regular things, has the podcast, which is 1 hour, 3 or 4 p.m. Eastern, has 60-minute meetings that are not podcasts, which are rare,
right,
has a podcast international link that allows wider availability of hours. And I'm missing one or two. Oh, chatwithtony.com, which is half an hour, but only afternoons. And
right.
I'm missing one because I know it's 6 total, right? And uh, I swear that my cancel rate, rather, no, cancels don't matter. Cancels are perfectly fine. I swear that my not show rate for podcasts, it's very close to zero. But the other calls, uh, on a Friday, I might run 40%.
Right.
Right. And I know it's something that I should improve, but I haven't. So anyway, so how do you guys? So I can only
So
imagine
the
when it
way
comes to
is
car
just
payments.
so in the current world, you go ahead and they're still old school. You get an email and be able to call, or the claims adjuster is just makes a phone call, a Hail Mary, and just hopes that the claimant answers it, right? And then that's kind of and then most a lot of times when they get them on the phone, it's not necessarily even a good time to talk. So they're like, okay, here's an opportunity with our system, be like, how about this particular time we're going to send you a link. So and either it's sent in, it is kind of a it's like Calendly in terms of like, here's the availability, and the alternative is that for it's very hard to meet, and or the claimant initiates and tries to get a meeting, and they call into a call center. They're on hold. They've the adjuster that they have is on another call, right? So it's generally frustrating on both sides. So that scheduling helps the saves time. We're calculating everything from the insurance adjuster's amount of time saved, but also just improving the customer satisfaction that there's an alternative way to meet, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of, so you understand the pain point, like
Oh yeah, totally.
you have they it's insurance adjusters face, and their tools are limited to just phone calls or emails or the back and forth. And as our calculation is 2 to 2.5 hours wasted per day on adjusters just playing phone tag,
That would
right?
yes, that would intuitively make sense to me.
Right.
And so I'm guessing that any adjuster or claims manager or leader that would make sense too. Okay. So that's how you handle the scheduling. Okay. So once the meeting happens, how is it better than the old way?
So we're offering, so you still have the benefits of the old way, right? Which is typically you get a call and it's a phone call, and you walk through and you discuss what's happening, and you're like, okay, I'm going to prep you that I'm going to go ahead and do the recorded statement. It's much like kind of your preamble to the call before we went and met, and being like, hey, this is be prepared for, these are the things I'm going to ask, right? And I'm going to go through with you in terms of the loss, and that goes through. But this is a form, you kind of talk to what the claim statement is, and then they're like, okay, let's start the process, and then we're going, you go through and you write notes, right? And the insurance adjuster, depending on their level of experience, right, is the you're given a general script in terms of what you should cover. And
Yeah.
if you're a junior adjuster, you're really kind of focusing on that script, and you may not be paying attention to the nuances on the call to ask the right follow-up question, right? Versus if you ask like a senior adjuster is writing and taking notes, but is knows how to be attentive and ask the right follow-up question at the right time, right? So the first pass of what we're doing in ClaimMentor is you go through the meeting. The insurance adjuster is already more engaged because they know the calls are going to be transcribed and summarized, and they're taking selective notes, versus what happens now is they're trying to document everything, and they're really kind of following the script, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but the part that we think is going to increase adoption and customer satisfaction is to do video-based meetings. We offer that, and there's resistance from claims adjusters to do it, right? As I see you laughing,
I'm
right?
not surprised. Yes.
You're like, good luck with that one, right, Luis?
Uh-huh.
But what I say is this, like, okay, how would it feel if you were the claimant and you could actually see the adjuster? And
I agree.
you're more like, a claimant is more likely to sue State Farm than they are Jake from State Farm, right?
That is
It's
so
like
correct.
that's the thing, right?
By the way, I'm gonna interrupt you super quick. I believe part of the reason that I have a high no-show rate is because all my calls get scheduled as Zoom calls,
Yeah,
and often, often instead of their LinkedIn, people will put their phone number and they're expecting me to call them, and I won't.
right.
They can they can like they can choose to call into the Zoom call, right? That they can choose to call it by phone without video, and that's fine. I don't take that option away, but I want the Zoom video if at all possible, because it gives
Yeah,
me a lot
absolutely.
of context that is hard to get otherwise.
Yeah, I agree completely. The what happens is exact it's important to get that right, in terms of the how do they want to meet you, right? Is it going to be a phone call? Is it going to be a video based meeting? It's making that convenience, and then be able to, whatever it is to make sure that is transcribed and summarized. That's
Perfect.
where we think the value is added, and our and the part of not just summarizing, you probably see this, right? But I do a lot of video-based calls
Mm-hmm.
and transcriptions because I do a lot of customer discovery. I
Mm-hmm.
meet with a lot of people and I'm going ahead and getting notes, and then I get a summary, and that summary provides no value because in the initial call, I'm like, it gives an equal amount of weighting in terms of what I talk about versus the person that I'm interviewing.
That's fair.
So, right. And then I have to go ahead, I take that transcription and I run it through another, like a chat GPT tool. And I'm like, hey,
Ignore me.
I'm not the focus of the meeting. The focus
Yeah,
is
because
who
you're saying the same shit. You're saying the same stuff all
all
the
the
time.
time, right? I'm
So
like, I
so
don't
yeah,
need
you
to,
don't care about your piece. They might care about your piece,
yeah,
but
exactly.
you care about what they say.
Right.
Very good point.
I don't need to hear my own pitch for the 50th time. Right.
Exactly. So that,
So,
that makes perfect sense. Okay, continue.
So you want to basically have the right level of modeling in terms of getting that summary right and providing the right insight. And it needs to be trained on a model that is specifically to the
So the,
adjusting.
the model has been trained
Right.
to largely ignore the adjuster and gives me just the answers.
Give the facts and then the
Beautiful.
insights, and then be able to offer that insight in terms of what's the difference between how the senior adjuster call went versus how a junior adjuster call went,
Oh,
right? So you get the
okay.
insights in terms of
Hence
that.
the mentor piece.
This is
Because I
it.
was wondering on that.
Yeah. So the claim mentor, like people ask, like, so stage one, let's just talk about MVP. It's scheduling, meeting, summarizing, getting the insights. And we believe that alone, and it's a subscription-based model for insurance adjusters that are actively using the platform. But if you are a secondary user, such as quality assurance or education, that wants to use these recordings and summaries to improve operations, right? Then you're free, right? So the payment is the active, like as you said, you're a MedPay adjuster that'd be scheduling claim statements. And for this, we're going to charge an all you can eat model of $100 per month for adjusters. And the value added, we're calculating conservatively as like $1,000 per month for adjusters that are using this from save times and accurate summary. And it's not just about cost savings, it's about improving customer satisfaction scores, right? Because things are going to be smoother. You're going to have better engagement on a meeting. So that's MVP. So the from scheduling, meeting, summarization, the amount of time calculated savings for the adjuster, and yeah, and as I mentioned, those secondary users are also really important, right? And then we let's talk about that a little bit. Like you probably used to quality assurance, right, on calls like that exists, or education for the claims adjusters for training junior adjusters to improve. That's an
Mm-hmm.
outcome that you also get out of this for a secondary use case.
Ah,
Does that make sense, Tony?
yes, yes. No, this is making perfect sense. Absolutely perfect sense.
Great.
Um, yeah, yeah, it just makes sense. So normally I ask about implementation.
Yep.
So does it? what is the implementation like? Does it plug
So
into my Guidewire, Claim Center, Duck Creek, phone software? Like, yeah.
there's two parts, right? A non-integrated solution is the only integration is to the calendar system of the adjuster, and it's
Mm-hmm.
an instant on solution if you go non-integrated and you get your statements, you get your transcriptions and summaries, and then what you do is as an adjuster, you put in superficial information about the claim, and you're essentially what you're going to do is you're going to take your transcriptions and copy transcriptions and copy summaries and put that into the notes of your claim system. So
Okay.
the implementation one is just a zero install, and you get the transcriptions and summaries with the insights, and you manually copy and paste.
Mm-hmm.
However, the our go-to-market strategy is to do pre-built integrations into the Guidewire worlds, Duck Creek,
Beautiful.
the you might not know this, Tony, but I was actually an early employee of Guidewire software.
I did not.
I was there for 13 years. Actually,
Wow.
it's I joined 20 years ago, so it's like back when they had less than 100 employees. And so I know quite a bit about Claim Center, and yeah, I did. So the implementation, like most people are accustomed to saying, like, oh, so we're going to have something in 3 months. We're like, no, this is this is an instant on solution, except if you want to integrate, we will integrate into your claim systems, and that integration is fairly straightforward
Okay.
because I'll talk about what that integration is at a high level. We are in the world in which we are integrated in a Guidewire Claim Center. We act more like a plugin, right? Where much like on the call right now, you probably see that there's recordings happening, right? And the summarization. So all that you would get is the claim. You go ahead, you get to the user. That is the claimant or the witness, and you say that you want to initiate kind of a claim statement from there, right? Or you go ahead and you have an automatically scheduled meeting that goes ahead and there's an activity. So that integration is initiated from the claim system or from the calendar system. And then in return, we return just the transcript. We're receiving claims information and we are returning activities with transcriptions and summaries. So it is a fairly straightforward integration. And what I learned at my time at Socotra, right? Because I was at Socotra for 2 years, is the value of having a marketplace of pre-built integrations that actually integrate uh, smoothly, right? If you can get something that is not just an accelerator program where it's like, okay, here's the implementation, you figure it out. You offer a pre-built kind of marketplace plugin to those different claim systems, then it's a real type of integration. So we that's kind of in our DNA, that it's not just from my Guidewire background, but also the background of like how do you build integrations to different systems, right? So we're going to make that part easier than existing, and then but those two different implementation paths is either an instant on solution or one that comes with an integration into claims. And I think that's important because what I've learned is that there can be, even if you have, let's say you're a carrier and you're a multi-line carrier and you're working a claim center rollout, right? You might not be lined up to be integrated into that claim system for like 2 years, right? Like it's just they have a multi-state rollout program, and what I say is like, why would you want to leave out those insurance adjusters that need the same value and while they're waiting to be implemented into those systems? So you could do a blended approach where you start with an approach which is like you're non-integrated, and then later on you are integrated and for the rollout. So, and that happens a lot in a lot of my discovery meetings. I discovered being like, oh yeah, no, we're such and such carrier. They're working on Duck Creek, and I'm going to be live in a year and a half. So talk to me then. And we're like, actually, you don't need to do that. So hopefully that talked. I rambled a lot,
No, no,
so maybe.
that was a fantastic explanation.
Right.
Normally I'm asking about pricing.
Yep.
You already talked about $100
Yeah,
per adjuster.
pricing is straightforward. So
Amazing.
value is uh $1,000 a month for insurance adjusters that use a system from both time savings of no longer playing phone tag and no longer needing to do the what typically happens is after a call, let's say you were on a call for an hour, you'd spend about an hour writing up your notes and summaries, right? So we're calculating that with roughly 30 to 40 calls that you do, you're going to save about $1,000 a month. And that's conservative, but in terms of the pricing, we're going to charge $100 per month for adjusters that are actively using it. But if you are a read only or listen user, you own the carrier owns the data, and then that's shared with the like quality assurance or education teams. So you're only paying for the seats that the adjusters are using. So hopefully that's straightforward, but I think it's $100 per month like subscription fee.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic. Normally, what are the clients saying? So it looks like you've been running ClaimsMentor for only since middle of last year.
Yep.
So are there a couple of clients that are already deployed, and
No,
what are they saying?
so where we're at is so I was we've been in discovery, and we were entered the class of Global Insurance Accelerator Group in January, and the purpose of that call of that for what we wanted out of that program was to make sure that we had product market fit. So our traction is that I've interviewed over 75 kind of insurance professionals
Awesome.
and 30 adjusters and 25 actually claims buyers, which are heads of claims, uh, chief claims officers, right? And we wanted to validate that what we were building was right. And the we are about 6 weeks out from our go live, right? We use the money and the funds from the Global Insurance Accelerator Group to predominantly build what we have in our vision. We have prototypes exactly how we want it to work, and we have a few customers that are signed up to be what I would say pilot customers. And funny enough, they come out of the Global Insurance Accelerator Group. So that's where we're at. We really um and that's how our traction is.
When is go live tentatively?
Go live is tentatively in July.
Okay,
So that's where
perfect,
we're at. And then
perfect,
yep. So go live
perfect.
soon.
Um, Normally, I also ask about where the idea came from. So we look a little bit at your background. So you've already mentioned a little bit of your background, right? So I looking at your LinkedIn. Okay, so 13 years at Guidewire. Guidewire is kind of the original insurtech before insurtech was a thing,
That's right.
and they've been ridiculously successful.
Yep.
So you were at Guidewire from 05 to 18.
Yep.
Then you go to Surify
Yeah.
as VP of product. Then Socotra
Yep.
as principal product manager, and beyond roadmap. Not sure what that was. You can talk about it if it's related.
Yep.
Uh, and then claims, but basically like your LinkedIn, this is as close to InsurTech royalty as you get.
Oh, you're too kind.
No,
The
no, honestly, 13 years I got a wire, and then executive level roles at a couple of other successful insurtechs, like amazing.
Thank you.
So I am curious, what is Beyond Roadmap, if it's related?
Yeah, no, it
Uh,
is.
yeah,
Simply stated, Beyond Roadmap was my management consulting company. There was a lot of desire for, at that point in time, to, take the Guidewire magic to apply it in a management consulting to different insurtech
makes perfect
companies,
sense.
or the implementations that were large that needed someone to go ahead and give a health check to make sure to see if they were on the right track, right? They needed someone on that side. So that's what Beyond Roadmap was. And the main story that came out of Beyond Roadmap is I had the opportunity to help the two Sigma IQ, which became Insurance Quantified. I helped them with the product roadmap and then their first implementation go live with a company called Blackboard Insurance, which was a
Oh yeah,
success.
yeah. The
Yeah. So
Blackboard was awesome until AIG pulled the plug on it for apparently to save money on taxes.
So the what I led their first go live for the first 8 states while I was at Beyond Roadmap for that side. So helping coordinating with the executive team of of both Blackboard and Two Sigma IQ that had not yet had a go live. So that was my Beyond Roadmap story.
Fantastic, even more insurtech royalty. Um, so now here's an interesting one. Okay, so you have had just a fantastic career through insurtech. So last year, you
Yep.
decide, you know what, I'm gonna launch my own insurtech and apply to GIA.
Yep.
You could have chosen any problem in our industry. Normally, my question is, how did you realize this was a problem? But in your case, the question's a little broader. Out of all the problems you saw during
Yep.
your 20 years of experience in insurance technology, uh, why this problem?
Okay, great question. So m- at that point in time, a lot of people were trying to figure out where to apply artificial intelligence to the
We're, we're,
insurance.
we're still there. It's all I do on the podcast anymore.
Yeah, it's and and most people started off with the solution in search of a problem, right?
Of course.
And they did very broad-based solutions. And I've listened to broad-based solutions that you've had on your podcast, right? And they're like, yeah, no, we can address the solutions of underwriting and claims, and we will do everything from document ingestion to, helping you with with your downstream integration systems, and we're going to save you years of time, right? Uh, where we focused was, let me start with my beliefs. I believe that insurance is a noble profession and claims is the product. And I think that insurance adjusters need help and assistance. And this is actually our third iteration of going through and trying to figure out the best way to help with claims. We started off and we were actually focused a lot on the SIU problem
Okay.
and the while I was going through special investigation units and trying to use a predictive analytic pattern to try to look for fraud, we had a hypothesis that you could use claim statements as a way to try to detect for fraud.
That would make perfect sense. Yes.
So you could go ahead and you can do sentiment analysis, or you could do comparative statements, and you could see if people are lying. And what we found out was that less than 20% of these statements are even captured and used. So when you do a recorded statement, insurance carriers are oftentimes just record it and hold it in terms of litigation, and they don't even go ahead and transcribe and summarize it. So I'm
I'm
like, are you
shocked.
so I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, they're like, yeah. So that's when we started focusing, and I was just doing active discovery with a lot of different claims groups, and we had a couple different areas that we were looking at, and this one just kept on showing up over and over again, being like, here, yes, it's a problem. We only use these we record it, but then we don't do anything with it, right? And so the power of this untapped data source, right? is where we saw the opportunity. And we also learned that you should have a hyper focus on the problems that impact your actual target users. And for us, it's insurance adjusters. So if you notice, I went this entire call, and I don't know how many, we're probably 30 minutes in, and that's the first time I mentioned AI, right?
I know. You clearly did your research, and you
Right.
saved me from taking like 4 shots.
Right. It's for that. So we think that if you AI is the latest technology wave, but you really need to have an obsession on the problems that are impacting your users.
Agreed.
And so it started off with the core belief that there's opportunity in this claim space, and that's what we pursued, and our research took it there. And when we made our application to Global Insurance Accelerator Group, it was shortly after I met you at the again at InsurTech. They're like, this is interesting, and there was only certain companies that would take a back of the napkin idea and say
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, we will give you the funding to kind of pursue it.
GIA is the main place that will do that. Yes.
Yeah, so that's what we did. And then they have a structured program with fantastic advisors, and also that you run through, like we did 70, I think 72 discovery calls just with the what's the mentor matching to find the right mentors. So and then you run through 100-day program, and they go ahead and they're like, okay, let's continue to the discovery, and let's see if we and validate the product idea. And that's what came out of it, was a well-defined area where when I jumped into the initial call, it was like, oh, we're going to help claims adjusters improve claim statements. It became a lot more focused in terms of our value proposition, and we got validation of it. And then now we use the money for actually building out the
I
product, right?
absolutely love like this makes perfect sense to me, and I absolutely love the way that you talk about claims because I agree
Yep.
1,000%. Yes, thank you for the work that you're doing. Uh, it makes perfect sense to me. I can't wait to have you back in a year or two once you're deployed at a few carriers, and if
Oh,
possible, let's have you and a client and talk about how it's changed their world.
yeah,
Because this
that
this idea is, and of course, my firewall is not wanting to play along, but there we go.
nice. Oh,
Yes,
fantastic.
like
But
love it.
I've got I've this is what we're pursuing. So we are hyper focused on this particular problem, but this is a milestone to be one quick thing to talk about roadmap, right? And
Mhm.
I'm reluctant to do this because first you want to basically solve the problem that you're out to do, but the claim mentor, what a lot of people come to, Tony, is what can you do to influence the can you actively drive the conversation while someone is actually taking the statement, right? And so the claim mentor part is aspirational, where we think that
Totally get it.
you could go from the recorded to actually driving the direction and offering insights while the call is occurring. So for example, if someone says that they had an injury, it goes ahead to say, hey, make sure to ask a follow-up question if they had any pre-existing conditions or if they've already gone to the hospital. And then that's the type of questions a senior adjuster would ask that a junior adjuster
You
wouldn't.
would just not know.
So,
Luis,
yeah,
thank you so much for your time today. This has been fantastic. When this goes live, I will tag you on LinkedIn and tag the company on it. Cannot wait to see you guys deployed and how this makes a difference in our industry. Thank
thank
you.
you, Tony. It's been great. It's been great to do this, and I really, really appreciative. And I welcome the feedback from your target users. If they think this is a great idea, great. But if you want to tell me my baby is ugly and it's not going to work or anything,
Please,
I want that input, right?
yeah.
I want that
Let
input.
me know that before we spend all the GIA money.
That's no, it's always good. I'll take you do I believe in doing continuous discovery, right? So it's great. But thank you. Yeah, Tony, this has been a great opportunity. Thank you for listening to the problem, and look forward to talking to you again in like a year.